Amarachi Obi had everything a young woman could desire: wealth, fame, comfort. The only daughter of Chief Kenneth Obi and Lady Ifeoma Obi, she was born into a life of opulence and polished appearances. Her father owned a conglomerate that dominated the oil, real estate, and tech sectors, while her mother was a celebrated philanthropist whose face graced the covers of lifestyle magazines. Yet, amid the chandeliers and luxury SUVs, Amarachi felt a hollow ache inside. At 26, she had become increasingly disillusioned with her world. Every friend, every date, every smile at a party seemed calculated, rooted not in who she was, but in the legacy she represented. Even the men her parents introduced her to spoke more about stocks and surnames than dreams and sincerity. That ache sharpened one evening during a dinner with a family acquaintance, a tech mogul's son, whose idea of conversation was comparing private jets. As he blabbered on about his vacation in Santorini, Amarachi zoned out, her eyes drifting to the untouched food on her plate. Her heart whispered, "This is not the life you want." Later that night, she sat with her parents in their marble-floored dining room, the air perfumed with jasmine and judgment. "I want to leave the city," she said, her voice steady. "Just for a while. I need to find out who I am away from all this." Lady Ifeoma's eyes widened in horror. "Leave? To where?" "Amarachi, you're a woman. It's dangerous. You don't even know how to live like them." Chief Kenneth remained silent, his knuckles against his chin. Amarachi turned to him. "If I can't find love or meaning on my own, I'll come back. I'll even meet Chinedu Okeke if that's what you want." Chief Kenneth arched an eyebrow. "You mean the young man from the Okeke dynasty?" Amarachi nodded. "Yes, but first I need this." A long pause followed. Lady Ifeoma's protests buzzed in the background, but Chief Kenneth eventually raised a hand. "Let her go." And with that blessing, Amarachi packed a modest bag, left her phones behind, and boarded a bus headed for Makalani, a dusty, busy town far from the polished skyline of Lagos. In Makalani, no one recognized her. She rented a one-room apartment above a tailor's shop and began living as simply as she could, gone with the heels, silk scarves, and chauffeurs. Here, she was just Amara. Within a week, she found work as a waitress at Mama Nkechi's Kitchen, a small roadside restaurant with peeling yellow paint but a warm soul. Mama Nkechi was a stout woman with a booming laugh and sharp eyes. "You sure you can handle this life, fine girl?" she asked Amarachi on her first day, handing her an apron. "I'll learn," Amarachi replied, tying the string behind her back. The work was grueling, sweaty, fast-paced, and humbling. But for the first time, Amarachi felt alive. Customers treated her like any other waitress, and she savored every second of it. One evening, while wiping tables, a man approached the counter with a crooked smile and dusty boots. "Hi, I'm Ike Kenna," he said. "You're new here?" Amarachi nodded politely. "Yes, just trying to find my feet." Over the next few days, Ikenna, a construction worker, began showing up more often. He was charming, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in her. They took walks after work and shared roasted corn by the roadside. Amarachi started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had found something real, until one day, behind the kitchen, she overheard Ikenna on a call. "I dey follow him steady. She no even know I sabi who she be. Amarachi Obi na billionaire daughter, oh. Guy, go cash out soon." Amarachi's chest constricted. The tray in her hand crashed to the ground. Ikenna turned, eyes wide. "Amara, wait, I can explain." But she didn't let him. "Don't," she whispered, voice shaking. "You were just like the rest." That night, Amarachi packed again. She didn't return home. Instead, she boarded another bus, this time to a smaller village even further away, where no one would think to look. She was done being betrayed, but her journey had only just begun. The sun hung low over the quiet village of Umudim, casting golden rays on dusty roads, red earth paths, and children play with makeshift footballs. It was a place untouched by the fast pace of city life, where goats roamed freely and every face knew the other. To Amarachi Obi, now simply Amara, it felt like the farthest place from pain. She arrived at dawn, with nothing but a small bag and a fragile heart. The bus dropped her near the local church, where she asked a roadside pepper seller if there was a place she could rent. The woman pointed her toward an old widow named Mama Ejike, who agreed to give her a room at the back of her compound. "It's small and the roof sings when it rains," Mama Ejike said, squinting at her. "But it's yours if you'll fetch water and help sweep sometimes." Amara nodded. "I'm grateful." Her new room was barely large enough for a mattress and table, but it had something the mansion in Ikoyi never did: stillness. It was here that Amara resolved to start over completely. No more past, no more lies, just a young woman finding her way. The next step was finding work. While walking to the center of Umudim one sunny afternoon, she noticed a sign scrawled in blue marker outside a small supermarket. "Salesgirl wanted." Without hesitation, she stepped inside. The shelves were neatly arranged, though limited, and behind the counter stood a man with kind eyes and a faded cap. "Good afternoon, sir," she said. "I saw your sign. I'm here about the job." The man, Mr. Paul, looked her over carefully. "Have you worked in a shop before?" "Yes," Amara lied softly. "In Makalani." He nodded. "You can start tomorrow. Just stock shelves, attend to customers, and sweep outside every morning." "Thank you," she said, bowing slightly. It was humble work, but Amara welcomed it. She was determined to build a life of her own, even if it meant hiding her true identity. The following day, she met Ngozi, the other salesgirl, lively, sharp-tongued, and full of dreams. "You're lucky, Amara," Ngozi said on their first shift together. "I'm just here saving money to leave this village. I want to marry a rich man and live in Lekki. These village boys, they can't offer anything." Amara smiled politely, shelving tins of tomato paste. "What if the rich man isn't kind?" Ngozi rolled her eyes. "Then I'll make him kind with my charm. You'll see." They grew friendly quickly, but Amara noticed that Ngozi often judged people by what they owned, not who they were. Still, it was refreshing to have a companion. Then one day, a tall, confident man entered the shop. "Good afternoon, ladies," he said, flashing a charming smile. It was Emeka Dyke, the wealthiest man in the village. He owned farmlands, a trucking business, and a 4-bedroom bungalow that towered above the other homes. Ngozi's eyes sparkled. "Welcome, sir," she said sweetly. "What would you like today?" But Emeka's eyes drifted to Amara. "Are you new here? I don't think we've met." Amara hesitated. "I just moved recently." "Well, welcome," Emeka said, his gaze lingering. "This village just got brighter." Over the next week, Emeka began stopping by more often, sometimes buying nothing just to talk to Amara. He complimented her, joked with her, even offered to walk her home once. Ngozi noticed. Her mood began to shift. "He likes you," she said one day, forcing a smile. "You know he was my dream husband?" Amara looked uncomfortable. "I'm not interested in him." Ngozi's eyes narrowed. "Why? He has money. He could give you anything." Amara gave no reply. Then everything changed again. It happened one afternoon as Amara was leaving work. A group of children were playing with a plastic ball in the street. She was crossing the road when the ball flew toward her. In an instant, a strong arm wrapped around her, pulling her away from a speeding motorcycle. She stumbled right into his arms. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched into his features. Amara looked up and froze. He was dark-skinned, well-built, with gentle eyes and a calm presence that immediately made her heart beat faster. "Yes," she breathed. "Thank you." "I'm Chinedu," he said, extending a hand. "I just got posted here for a site project." "You?" "Amara," she replied, shaking his hand. "I work at the supermarket." And so began their unexpected friendship. They started running into each other often, sometimes by the stream, sometimes at the market, always by chance, yet always perfectly timed. Chinedu was simple, kind, and never bragged. He spoke about his work laying telecom lines, but more about his mother, his late father, and the dreams he had of building homes for rural communities. He never asked her about her past, and she never asked him about his. They laughed, walked, shared boiled groundnuts, and spoke of sunsets and dreams. For the first time since leaving Lagos, Amara, felt something blossom inside her. Hope, but not everyone was happy. Emeka Dyke noticed, and so did Ngozi. One evening, as Amara closed the shop, Ngozi approached her. "You think you're better than us?" she hissed. "First Julius, now Chinedu?" "I never asked for any of this," Amara replied, taken aback. "You act like money doesn't matter," Ngozi snapped. "But somehow, everything seemed to fall into your lap." Amara didn't respond. She couldn't tell Ngozi that once upon a time, money was all she had, and it never brought her peace. As she walked home that night, the village breeze kissed her skin, and her heart whispered the truth she dared not say aloud. She was falling in love. But Chinedu wasn't just any man, and soon she would find out just how deep his secret ran. The days in Umudim passed in a quiet rhythm. Amara awoke with the sunrise, swept the storefront with Ngozi, restocked provisions, and worked behind the counter. In the evenings, she often found herself walking side by side with Chinedu under the soft glow of lanterns as the village settled into calm. He was thoughtful in ways that surprised her, bringing her roasted yam on rainy days, helping her carry bags from the market, or simply listening as she talked about her made-up life story, an orphan who would wander from town to town in search of peace. But as their bond deepened, so did the weight of her secret. How could she tell him the truth? She wasn't the humble salesgirl he believed she was. She was Amarachi Obi, heiress to a multi-billion naira empire, daughter of Lagos royalty. She had left that world behind not just to escape, but to discover who she could become when stripped of everything, and now she was terrified that telling Chinedu the truth would destroy the beautiful simplicity they had found. Yet she wasn't the only one carrying a secret. That evening, as twilight painted the sky purple and gold, Chinedu invited Amara for a walk by the riverbank. They strolled in silence at first, the breeze soft, fireflies glowing in the grass. Then he turned to her, his expression unreadable. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. Amara's heart stopped. Was this it? Had he figured her out? She braced herself. "My time in this village, it's almost up. The project I came to oversee is nearly complete." She blinked, surprised. "So soon?" He nodded. "In a few weeks, I'll have to go back to the city. Abuja." Amara looked down, hiding the ache forming in her chest. "Oh, I see. I don't want to leave you behind, Amara," he added, stepping closer. "I know it's only been a short time, but what we have, it means a lot to me." She glanced up at him, caught in the warmth of his gaze. "I don't want to lose it either," she whispered. They stood still for a moment before Chinedu reached out, gently brushing a curl from her face. "Come with me," he said. Amara's breath caught. "To Abuja?" "Yes. Start a new life with me. You don't belong here. Amara, I can see it in the way you carry yourself. You're destined for more." His words pierced her. Did he know, or was it just a guess? She gave a nervous smile. "I'll think about it." He smiled back. "Take your time." But as they parted ways that night, Amara's mind was a storm. She had come to the village to escape wealth, yet love had found her again. Could she risk repeating the same cycle? Or worse, was she falling for another man who might not be what he seemed? The very next day, the whispers began. It started with Ngozi. "She's not who you think she is," Ngozi said to Emeka as they stood outside his compound. "I know she's hiding something," she continued. "And Chinedu, he's not so innocent either." Emeka raised a skeptical brow. "You think they're both lying?" Ngozi crossed her arms. "I'm sure of it." Later that afternoon, Amara passed by the village square on her way from the tailor's when she heard murmurs. She followed the sound until she saw a small group of workers loading equipment into a van. Chinedu's crew. She approached one of them. "Is the project ending?" The man nodded. "Yes, madam. Boss is wrapping up. Mr. Okeke doesn't like long stays. He prefers to keep a low profile." Her brows furrowed. "Mr. Okeke?" The man gave her a confused look. "You mean you don't know?" "That's Chinedu's real name, Chinedu Okeke." A chill ran through her. That name, it wasn't unfamiliar. She rushed back to her room, hands trembling, and pulled out her old phone, the one she had kept hidden. After reconnecting it, she searched. There it was. Chinedu Okeke, son of Chief Bamidil Okeke, heir to a telecommunications empire, a billionaire. Her breath caught in her throat. He had been hiding his identity just like she had. That night, Amara didn't sleep. The man she had fallen for wasn't just kind and humble. He was the very man her father had once asked her to meet, the one she had refused to consider. Her mind reeled with the irony. They had both run away from the same world, searching for something real. They had both lied to each other, and they had both unknowingly found what they were looking for in each other. The next morning, Amara stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. This was no longer just about love. This was about truth. It was time to reveal who she truly was. But with Chinedu, no, David, understand? Would love survive 2 lives built on hidden identities? She didn't know. But one thing was clear. She was done running. The atmosphere in Umudim shifted after Amara discovered Chinedu's true identity. Chinedu Okeke, billionaire son of one of the wealthiest families in Nigeria. It wasn't just a name that shocked her, but the irony of it all. He was the same man her father had once urged her to meet, the man she had rejected without even a glance. Now, he was a man she had unknowingly fallen in love with, in the most unlikely of places. They had both hidden who they were. They had both sought escape, and they had both found each other in their most vulnerable forms. But now, there could be no more lies. Amara didn't go to work the next day. She sat on the small wooden stool in her room, staring at her hands. The same hands that had scrubbed the floor of Mom and Ketchy's kitchen in Makalani. The same hands that had carried crates in Mr. Paul's supermarket. These hands had done the work of a commoner, but the blood in her veins was far from ordinary. She wasn't sure if she was angry, confused, or heartbroken. Maybe all 3. But more than anything, she needed answers. When the sun dipped low that evening, casting long shadows over the village fields, she walked steadily toward the compound where Chinedu was staying with his crew. He was outside, instructing a few workers who were finishing up their final tasks. When he saw her, his face lit up, until he noticed a look on hers. "Amara," he said, concerned, "are you okay?" She stopped a few feet away, folded her arms. "You lied to me." He froze. "I know who you are, Chinedu Okeke, the billionaire, the heir, the same man my father wanted me to meet." His mouth parted, but no words came out. "You knew this whole time and never told me." He stepped forward, eyes pleading. "I was going to. I didn't want to lose what we had." "Did you think I was using you?" she asked, her voice rising. "Did you believe I'd fall for you if I knew the truth, or that I'd run the moment I found out?" Chinedu sighed, guilt weighing on his shoulders. "Amara, I was tired of being seen for my name, my money. You were different. You looked at me like I mattered, even when I was just a man in dusty boots. That was real." She turned her face away, swallowing emotion. "You say that like I didn't feel the same way." He looked at her then, truly looked. "What do you mean?" Amara inhaled, then spoke clearly. "I'm not who you think I am either. My real name is Amarachi Obi, daughter of Chief Kenneth Obi. I ran away from my life in Lagos to find something real just like you did." Silence. The air between them stilled. "You're Amarachi Obi?" he repeated, stunned. She nodded slowly. "Yes, and I didn't tell you because I wanted someone who saw me. Not my family name. Not my father's empire." Chinedu stepped back, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It wasn't mocking. It was disbelief. It was relief. "I can't believe this," he said, eyes wide. "The girl my parents wanted me to meet, the one I kept avoiding, it was you?" Amara gave a half-smile. "Seems our parents were smarter than we thought." They stood there under the fading light, both caught between the absurdity and the beauty of it all. 2 billionaires' children had run from wealth, seeking truth, and had collided in a tiny village neither had belonged to. But not everyone was joyful. From behind a nearby shed, Ngozi listened and seethed. She had watched Amara receive affection, admiration, and now, revelation. All the while, Ngozi had worked in the same shop, dreamed of the same escape, and been ignored. She stormed back to her uncle's house, eyes burning. "I won't let her win again," she muttered. 2 days later, the village was buzzing. Word spread fast. The quiet girl from Mr. Paul's shop wasn't who she claimed to be. The news came out like wildfire. Amara was not only rich, but engaged with one of Nigeria's youngest tech moguls. People whispered. Some admired her. Others frowned with envy. Even Emeka Dyke, who had once thought himself the richest man in town, now kept his distance in bruised pride. But one evening, a knock came on the door of Amara's room. It was Chinedu. "Come with me," he said. "To where?" He smiled. "To Lagos." They returned not with headlines, but with humility and love. But just when everything seemed perfect, another twist awaited them. Madame Adesuwa Okeke, Chinedu's mother, who had once demanded he marry the daughter of Chief Obi, did not yet know that the humble girl from Umudim and Amarachi were one and the same. As they stepped into the Okeke mansion in Lagos, Chinedu held Amara's hand tightly. His mother approached them poised, skeptical. "This is Amara," he said proudly, "the woman I love." Adesuwa's eyes narrowed. "That name sounds familiar. Where exactly is she from?" Before Amara could speak, the double doors behind them opened, and in walked Lady Ifeoma Obi. "From my womb," she said, smiling. Adesuwa's face froze. Amara stepped forward and whispered, "Surprise." The silence in the Okeke family's opulent sitting room was thick with shock. Madame Adesuwa Okeke, dressed in her flowing wine-colored wrapper, stood rooted to the spot, her eyes darting between Amara and Lady Ifeoma Obi. Her carefully curated world, where matches were arranged through bloodlines and social worth, was unraveling before her eyes. "You're Amarachi Obi?" Adesuwa asked, her voice tight, almost trembling. "Yes," Amarachi said calmly, holding Chinedu's hand. "And I'm the same girl you tried to bribe to leave your son." Chief Bamidele Okeke, who had just stepped into the room behind his wife, paused mid-step. "Wait, what? Adesuwa, is that true?" Adesuwa's eyes widened. "I didn't know it was her. I thought she was just a village girl." Lady Ifeoma let out a laugh, full of maternal pride and restrained amusement. "A village girl, you said? The very one your son couldn't stop talking about." The tension broke, somewhat, as Chief Bamidele stepped forward, gesturing toward the couch. "Let's sit. This is long overdue." They all sat, Amarachi and Chinedu at the center, the two families now brought together not by arrangement, but by fate and deception that led to revelation. Over the next hour, the families talked, first with formality, then with openness. Chief Kenneth Obi arrived shortly after, having been informed by his wife that the showdown was happening today. Once seated, he looked at Chinedu. "I wanted you for my daughter once, not because of your money, but because you built your name from the ground up." Chinedu bowed his head slightly. "I wanted your daughter too, sir. I just didn't know it was her." Adesuwa exhaled deeply. "I may have misjudged you, Amarachi, and for that, I apologize." Amarachi smiled softly. "I understand, Ma. We all want the best for our children. But you should have told him the truth earlier," Adesuwa added, her tone still regal. Amara nodded. "So should he?" Chinedu grinned. "Fair." Everyone chuckled, just slightly. 1 month later, the engagement ceremony was the talk of the country. Social media exploded the day Amarachi Obi and Chinedu Okeke, two of Nigeria's most eligible heirs, announced their union. Pictures from their simple village days surfaced, and people gasped to see the transformation. Who would have thought Amara, the salesgirl, was a billionaire's daughter? Chinedu, the construction worker? He owns Okeke Telecom. But the couple paid little mind to the noise. They knew their love wasn't forged in luxury, but in humility, truth, and shared longing. Amara stood in front of a mirror on the day of their traditional engagement. Her wrapper was a deep emerald green, her coral beads resting elegantly on her neck. She smiled at her reflection, remembering the girl who once wiped tables at Mom and Ketchy's. "Are you ready?" Lady Ifeoma asked, stepping into the room. Amara turned. "Yes, Mama, more than ever." Outside, the music had begun. At the wedding, During the vote of thanks, Chinedu stood before the guests, microphone in hand. Many of you know us as business heirs. You've read headlines, made guesses, but our story began far away from gold and glass towers. We met as strangers with secrets. We saw each other through the dust of ordinary life, and in that we found something extraordinary. He turned to Amarachi. I found love, not because of who you are, but in spite of who we were pretending to be. Amarachi's eyes shimmered. She stepped up beside him, taking the mic. And I found home, in your arms, in your honesty, in a truth we both ran from, only to find it waiting together. The crowd erupted in cheers. The story of Amarachi and Chinedu, once a tale of secrets, had come full circle. Final twist, a letter from Ngozi. 1 week after the wedding, a letter arrived at the Obi mansion. It was addressed to Amarachi. She opened it on the balcony, with Chinedu beside her. Dear Amarachi, I want to hate you. I really do, but I can't. You show me what real love looks like. Not the kind bought with money, but the kind built through truth and pain. I hope you stay that girl. Maybe one day, I'll find a version of that for myself. Until then, I'm leaving Umudim. I've enrolled in a women's business program in Enugu, thanks to one of your father's foundations. I guess you helped me too, without even knowing. Sincerely, Ngozi. Amarachi smiled. Full circle, she whispered. Chinedu leaned in. Maybe we all needed each other to find who we truly were. And as they watched the city lights flicker below, they knew that love wasn't just about grand gestures. Sometimes it begins in dust and grows quietly into gold.